Hey, today I want to talk to you about how tarot is related to the number seven. The major arcana is specifically related to the number seven. If you've been working with cards for a while, you must have noticed that the major cards are 21, right? The Fool being the zero, no number, but the actual cards go from 1 to 21. 7 into 21 is 3, right? So today I want to talk to you about the relationship with the number 7. It's very important. And actually, what's interesting too, I think, about working with the majors in this way, it's not that you're going to actually maybe you're not going to read the cards based on this story. But I think knowing the background, knowing the story of 7 will help you to understand the majors better. And that's really part of it, right? It's like, think of it maybe like people who write fiction or nonfiction, and there's a character and there's an understory that helps them to understand the character better, right? We may not know what that is when we read it, but they know. And knowing that understory, knowing that what's going on underneath the layers of that character really will help not only the writer write better, but the reader, even if you don't know exactly all the nuances, to really get into the character, who the character is, right? And that's what I'm talking about with the majors. What is this about the number 7 that can really heighten our understanding of the majors and also help us to become better readers, right? Okay. And with that, I'm going to ask that you bear with me today because I haven't done this lecture in so long. I used to teach tarot and for many, many, many years, but it's something I just haven't done in a really long time. So I'm just going to ask that you bear with me. I'm going to read some, and I hope that you can as I said, forgive my having to read a bit today as I tell you more about what I've discovered about the 7 in the major cards. Okay, so here we go. First, let's start with what is it about the number 7? Well, Carolyn Myss, I think I'm pronouncing her name right? We all know her, Myss. New York Times. She's a New York Times bestselling author and spiritual practitioner. She's been doing it for a really long time. She wrote The Anatomy of the Spirit. If you're not familiar with it, you might want to look it up. And here's what she says about the number 7. We resonate to the number 7. It is literally a part of our anatomy. The number 7 represents a complete system, a whole body that extends from light to earth, from energy to matter. 7 is a number representative of the scale of life. And my further research about 7, when I was doing this many, 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 many years ago, what I discovered is that depending on which numerology system you follow, 7 actually has to do with the seeker, right, as we all are. And it can also depict spirituality, wisdom, and seeking inner truth, which I love specifically because we all know that's what tarot is about, right? Know thyself. And the other thing that I know we all know is our weekly cycle is the number 7. All religions and philosophies seem to also have the number 7 in them. 7 chakras, as we know, 7 sacraments in Catholicism. The Jewish tree of life has 7 branches. Islam followers are required to throw 7 pebbles at 3 walls during their pilgrimage to Mecca. In the Greek myth, the number 7 is Apollo's sacred number. And, the number 7 is also a perfect number in many ways, right? Because it's made of 4 and 3. And we all know from studying the majors that 3 has to do with, creation, spirit, matter, and all, and, creation and being the empress, and 4 has to do with foundational things. It's the emperor. So we have these two things coming together, the creative number 3 with the foundation of number 4, the empress and emperor together, like the perfect match of manifestation, basically. And something else that I didn't know is that the number 7 is considered a lucky number when it comes to gambling, which I had no idea, but I thought that was interesting too. All right. So what do we know about the major arcana in general? Well, we know that what I've discovered and what I think we all understand now about the majors, no matter how you understand each individual card, this is the walk of the human life. We all go through these stages. They're not linear, of course, but when we look at from the Fool, which is pure spirit, all the way to the world, which is, some people call it nirvana. It's our walk, our seeker's walk, that we understand as we go through life, that we build awareness, and through that awareness, our spirituality heightens, our humanness heightens. We become better people through this walk, right? Because we are self-aware, becoming more and more self-aware. But how do we become more self-aware? And that's what the story of 7 offers, okay? And that's how 7 is holding the story together. So lay out your cards from 1 to 7. I showed you in the picture how to do that. You're going to lay out your cards from number 1 all the way to 7. If you're using the traditional Smith weight deck as I am, that would be the Magician all the way to the Chariot. The second line, make your second line the 6 through 14th. That would be Strength through Temperance. And your last line will be the number 15 all the way through to 21, which is the Devil to the World, right? Put your Fool on top of that grid, because of course the Fool's important. And let's get started. So what I feel about the Fool, and what a lot of people feel, is that being it's the 0, the Fool, the opening of this story, the Fool is pure spirit, right? We come into this world this way, open, available. And, you know, the Fool also carrying that bag has everything that he needs in order to get through this life. That, I keep calling it a bag. I can't think of another word right now. But what they're carrying is indicative of what we come in with, right? So it's pure spirit. We're pure spirit when we come in, but we also have carried information, and we're also carrying the information we need to get through this life in this lifetime as well. So, but think of the Fool, I think, in a more general way, as being open, available to learning, available to being on this planet with awareness, right? Okay. And then we head out that next line, which is 1 through 7, the following line 8 through 14, and then 15 through 21. What I feel about those 3 stages, what I've called them, is the baby stage, 1 through 7. Then we have the adult stage. That's who I am. The baby stage is, first we have the baby stage. It's the gathering tools of self. What am I? Then that second line is the adult stage, gathering tools as we relate to the outside world, right? And that third stage, I call it the crone stage. It's when we're open to enlightenment. It's higher spiritual truths. It's the I am, not the who am I or what am I in stage 2, but the final I am of stage 3. So let's get started. I'll explain each card on this journey of 7, okay? So here we go. The baby stage, our first entry into our humanness. We enter, right? So the Magician, we're creative beings. When we enter, that's our initiation. That's what we all do. We're here to create. The High Priestess, the intuitive knowing, spirit in human form. These are the tools that we have when we enter our humanness. The Empress, of course, are all the female attributes that we bring. And the Emperor, all the male attributes that we bring. This combination of male and femaleness in all of us. And we become aware of those attributes in our humanness, right, as we go through life. The Hierophant, we are teaching, and we're students. We are learning as we go. The Lovers, we're reminded that we are in partnership. We're connected to others as humans, right? We're not just alone in this world. And the Chariot, we are capable to lead our lives, and we take responsibility for our lives. All right. The next stage, the strength through temperance, is that adult stage I mentioned. It has to do with, what am I doing, right? What am I doing here? And strength has to do with being brave. We're brave, we're courageous on this path as we go through life. The hermit, we learn that we have to spend time alone in contemplation so we can know more about who we are. And Joseph Campbell calls this time a transformation of consciousness. If you're not familiar with Joseph Campbell, feel free to look him up. He's amazing. The wheel, we're on our path. We're experiencing life's ups and downs. There's a season, right? Turn, turn, turn. Next is justice. We know to discriminate. We discern right from wrong. We form opinions. We understand the universal laws of cause and effect. And then we have the hangman, understanding that we must view things from varying different vantage points and points of view in order for us to be more aware and more awake, right? Exactly. And then finally, we also have death and temperance. So death, we start to experience the letting go. We start to understand what loss is. We lose. The path is, we've been building skill, obviously, in these first, the first stage and this beginning of the second stage. But, we're at that point now where we have gathered information and we also now are experiencing loss. We're experiencing how to let go. Not everything comes our way. We're learning from trial and error, and we are learning how to, next, temperance, learning how to moderate this understanding, right? That life, we've been given life, but we also understand that there's death, that not just literal death, of course there is that in this stage, but also that we ourselves, there are things about us that have to die in order for us to continue to walk. And that, part of what needs to die are things that are no longer serving us, as well as the experience of, as I said earlier, needing to learn how to let go, not to hold on to things too tightly, not to be attached so much. And temperance is there to help us understand this even further, how to not get too caught up in that death cycle or that letting go cycle to the point where we have no perspective. The perspective is that we live these truths, we can hold these truths together, the letting go with what it brings us, the gifts that it brings us, right? Okay. And in the final stage, here we are. In this third stage, this is where we get our big lessons, right? Because to get to that place where we're fully aware, it's really easy to stay complacent in life. It's easy to do that. It's so much easier than walking through the dark tunnel where we get our asses kicked. But we learn, unfortunately, through suffering. And we learn, unfortunately, through the things that really make us look, and we're called to attention to look. And as I've said before, unfortunately, we don't learn our lessons through just pure joy and happiness. I mean, we could. I really believe we can. But it seems like collectively we've decided that we definitely pay more attention, right? We get that hit when we're struggling, when we're suffering. And unfortunately, that's where this story of 7 leads us, because at the beginning of that third stage, where we're really needing to dig in and release ourselves from release from things that are keeping us back from having a full, rich life, we hit the devil. And the devil really is about being, self-pity, victimization, where we feel like we have to blame others. That's how it gets manifested sometimes. As individual people, we do this, we blame others. It is really hard and painful to look at ourselves. Tarot knows this. It's so difficult to look at ourselves and admit that we're wrong. Humble ourselves. The pain of looking at ourselves and saying, I did wrong, I am wrong, is not easy for many of us. And the devil makes us do that. It really highlights how we have to look deeply at ourselves and to really get into the idea that we ourselves have blame, that we have to look at what we've contributed to ourselves, to society, to those we love, those around us, that's making situations worse. And in so doing, we hit the tower. When we start looking at ourselves, or if we don't look at ourselves, if we're not willing to view the devil in us, we get the tower. And the tower is one of I think the hardest card of the majors. It's the kick your ass card, right? It's the card that says, unexpectedly, something really crazy has happened in my life. Sometimes terrible things happen. We lose our job. We suddenly, are getting divorced. I mean, things that really, really, really shake us up to the core. And, or it could even just be a situation that gets manifested that we didn't expect. A friend suddenly deserts us. We are, basically the tower brings us to our knees. And it reminds us of how human we really are. And it's at that point in our lives that we have to decide what we're going to do. It really is that visual of the lotus rising from the mud. It's the phoenix rising from the ashes. We get the opportunity to rise also from what we have experienced that has really, really affected our lives in ways that we absolutely didn't ask for and certainly don't want. Nobody wants to experience more pain, but we can get through pain. It's part of our human lesson. And according to tarot, going through that tunnel, that dark tunnel, brings us toward the light. A lot of people ditch the seeker's path at this point. I've noticed this when I do readings, when we are when we are experiencing so much pain, it's at that point that so many seekers ditch. It's, I think, traditionally when a lot of people lose faith and they lose hope. And for people who believe in God, that's when they might say, why would God do this if God is love? But it's not about the universe turning its back on us. It's about us turning our back on us. And tarot is asking that we walk that path, that we figure out what, how, and what, and why, and when we can get through that dark night of the soul so we can become stronger, better, more aware, more awake. And with that, you've got the next 3 cards on this last journey, which is the star, the sun, the moon. Or the star, the moon, the sun, right? Now, you don't have to be a tarot reader to understand that the universe is generous. And in many, in songs and in artwork and, when the stars, the sun, the moon, that's the gift of the universe to all of us, right? It's life. And there you have it. You've come through that dark night of the soul and you're given the gifts of life. You're given the stars, the moon, the sun. And it's so, so powerful to feel that, to know that. I mean, the star right after the tower is the card of health. And the sun is pure joy, right? The moon is asking us to pay attention to what has fed us. What feeds us? What's deep inside of us that feeds us? And as I said, the sun, then we come to pure joy. The next card, the judgment card in the traditional deck that I use, but it's really about awareness. We've come through so much. We've experienced so much, and we're still on the path. We have decided to stay on the path. We're not ditching. We have figured out that when we went through that tower, when we went through that tunnel, and we feel better because we grieved, we experienced what it meant to get down on our knees and continue to have faith and hope. Bring those things along. We ended up with the gifts of the universe and more awake, more aware. Wow. And for many of us, when we go through that, when we're in thinking about ways that we need to change and things that have held us back that are so painful, perhaps, maybe due to our childhood, maybe due to cultural experiences that we've had. When we go through that, we become so aware. We remember what it was And it's like a demarcation, a line between, we look back and go, wow, I can't believe that I did that. I can't believe I was somebody who wasn't generous, as an example. And now I feel like it's so easy for me to say to people, you look great today. I love the way your hair looks, right? Because before we were so insecure about ourselves and we couldn't accept compliments. And so it was hard to give compliments. And when we go through that dark night of the soul and we realize how painful it was for us not to love ourselves that much, then with all that awareness that comes with that 20 card, the judgment card, we understand that we won't go back there. We're free of what used to keep us back from loving ourselves in that particular instance where we couldn't take a compliment. And now we're free to compliment others. And then finally, we have the world card, the 21. You know, again, like that explosion, I'm feeling that explosion. The universe is what people call that true enlightenment, right? That place where we're so awakened, we become enlightened beings, right? We live in peace, we live in love. We continue to learn, you know, we're back to the full where we're open. I mean, this is a cycle, a circle that happens. So it's not like there's not more to learn, but, you know, we understand now things we didn't understand before. And, you know, the Buddhists call it nirvana. And I personally have never experienced anybody who's in that state all the time, but certainly with very specific issues, as I used, not being able to take in compliments, that example, we do get to that place where we're enlightened about it. And we're never going to go back to that state. And for many of us who have changed behaviors that don't suit us or don't suit other people any longer, I know you know what I'm talking about, right? I know that you know that when we change something to our core, when we have seen something in us that doesn't work any longer, it does get changed. And we have, in fact, hit that place of nirvana because we're never going back there. And so this journey of the major cards takes us through our own lives. What tarot is foundationally about, know thyself. And through knowing ourselves, we become better at our lives. We make better choices that suit us. And so this walk from the first stage of the baby stage, coming in with tools, understanding, just to summarize, coming in with tools, learning how to just be human, to walk, to understand who we are, female, male, all of that we learn. We're also, you know, we're willing. And then that second stage, the adult stage, where we're starting to experience what it's like to understand morality and understand that, yeah, life's ups and downs. How are we going to handle that? And then that third stage of the crone stage, where we're really experienced with our lives, but we need to get to a deeper level, the tower, the devil. And so I'm hoping that this has enlightened you a bit about this connection that tarot has to 7 and how important it is. And you might actually find when you lay these cards out in your own decks and the decks that you love, that you come up with your own ideas for what this 7 means to you, this path of 7. For me, I named it, you know, the baby, the adult, the crone, because that's how it felt to me. So maybe you'll come up with your own ideas. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate it today. Feel free to subscribe. Leave me comments about this. Let me know if you've discovered what it is, what this 7 means to you as you're reading your tarot cards. And let me know if this example of what I understand in terms of this walk of the majors, let me know if it helped you to illuminate anything new or maybe something that you already understood. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much.